Have you ever heard of the war on drugs? Would you consider it a success? Not only has this war been going on since the 1960s, we are losing it more than ever. People who want to do drugs will get their hands on drugs whether they are legal or not. When they are made legal, the government can control the purity, potency, and quantity that a person can buy. But when they're made illegal, black markets become flooded with fentanyl-cut drugs that cause much stronger addiction, disease, and death. The ACLU estimates the illegal drug trade to be worth $50 billion every year. Another problem the U.S. experiences is the overcrowding of prisons. We are the world's leading jailer with over 1 million people behind bars. 58% is for nonviolent federal drug offenses, and over 50,000 people are locked up in state prison for small quantity possession of drugs. It's estimated that 50% of police's resources are used for drug-related enforcement. Our for-profit prison system charges U.S. taxpayers more money for every person that is incarcerated, and our correctional system treats drug use as a bad behavior that needs to be punished rather than an illness that needs to be treated. The decriminalization of drugs will not only reduce our prison population, but also save massive amounts of taxpayer money on the criminal and legal processes involved that could be used on the treatment and recovery of people addicted to drugs. Now let's talk about money. There are currently 21 states that have legalized marijuana for personal use. In 2019, the tax revenue collected from this legislation was $1.7 billion, and last year it grew to $3.7 billion. A study by the cannabis analytics company New Frontier suggests federally legal weed could generate over $100 billion per year and create 1 million U.S. jobs. Another study by the World Health Organization said the U.S. has the highest lifetime drug use rates by a wide margin. The U.S. and the entire world should be looking at Portugal, which enacted a full decriminalization and reclassification of drugs back in 2001. They also increased their treatment services, including access to sterile syringes and methadone. It's now 22 years later, and Portugal reports the number of addicts is over 50% less. They have seen reduced rates in drug-related problems, adolescent use, fewer people are being arrested and incarcerated, and lower levels of HIV. The ACLU did a study in New York City which showed that 60% of all drug users in the city are HIV positive. This can be compared to less than 1% in a major city like Liverpool, England, where clean needles are easily available. More and more companies today are doing research on the positive effects of MDMA, psilocybin, LSD, and ketamine to combat things like anxiety, depression, PTSD, and substance abuse. The only current treatment for things like these are SSRIs, which were developed in the 80s and pharmaceutical companies still make a fortune on. Last year, MAPS published results of a phase 3 clinical trial treating PTSD patients with MDMA, and the leading research scientist PhD, Brian Roth, said the results were astounding. These are all Schedule I drugs that now have a very negative view due to the war on drugs back in the 60s and 70s. Clearly, the war on drugs isn't getting us anywhere in the US, and other countries seem to be figuring it out. Maybe we should learn from them before our current epidemic gets any worse.